Hey everyone, welcome to Real Talk with Ellison, and I am Ellison. Listen, if you are watching on Facebook, please go ahead and hit the like button and follow us. If you are on YouTube, please share this out. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you know when Real Talk with Ellison is going live, and don't forget to like the video because we want what we talk about to get higher up in the ratings, right? So we need y'all to like the videos. So with that being said, we about to get this show started. Hey, welcome to Real Talk with Ellison, and I am Ellison. Listen, you guys know how we do it on this show. We talk about issues that impact the community as well as the church as a whole. And more importantly, we like to deal with feeling, dealing, and healing. We don't want to just talk about issues and not give way to how to heal and deal with these issues, right? So today we are, well, listen, thank you guys for following all month long. Actually, the last 2 months we've been talking about the mother, mommy, or mommy dearest. And then in June, we've been talking about a blueprint of a father. So we've been talking about the impact fathers have on males mostly. But today we're going to finish it off with the females and how that daddy issues impact us. So we're finishing up the blueprint of the father, and this show is the effects of a father daughter relationship, right? And I have with me, y'all, listen, at this point, I don't even know. She might as well become a co host, but she with us all the time. She is our professional counselor, Miss Adrienne Smith. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, girl,
Good,
hey.
hey girl, hey, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome back. And thank you again for joining us. It's always a privilege to have you on, you and your smiling face, because you always have such a beautiful smile. So listen, tell us a little bit about you and your organization.
Okay, yeah, so my name's Adrienne Smith. I'm a licensed professional counselor here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I'm also the founder and executive director of the Leesboro Haven. It's a nonprofit organization where I provide trauma informed treatment to children and adolescents impacted by child sexual abuse.
Thank you so much for that. And again, I like I say all the time, it is definitely needed because the abuse is real. It happens, right?
Absolutely.
It's happening unfortunately more than we like to admit. I think
Absolutely.
it's happening more because, or is bringing coming more to the light because of social media and all the different ways that we have to know about this. Because before, what goes on in my house stays in the house, and
Yeah,
well, nobody gonna be like dialing the right.
yeah,
So
definitely.
thank you for all that you do. That's
Yeah.
that's blessing. So listen, this show here, whoo, the effects of a father-daughter relationship.
Mhm.
All right, so let's get started, right? So, and let us just say this: we're not talking about all fathers. So, fathers, if y'all are out there doing your thing,
Good.
keep doing your thing. If you're trying and pushing to do your thing, keep doing your thing. Don't give up. Them children need you, right? So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fathers who are absent. And listen, sometimes that doesn't always look like, oh, I left my child. I could, the father could be deceased. A lot of different things could happen. Sometimes it even looks like to a daughter, if the dad works a lot, right? So it's just a lot of different things that can contribute to the inconsistent or the absent father, right? So I want to just say this. Young girls define themselves based on the quality of their relationships with family and friends. And because they develop their identities through relationships, the absence of a relationship with their father often makes them feel incomplete,
Mm.
right? So how do I feel incomplete when, my father, he's not there? So speak to that a little bit. What does that kind of look like? The incompleteness.
Yeah, well, I think we were talking about this a little bit backstage, but when it comes to parents, whether it's your mother or your father, that is the first example that we have of, you know, um, that particular gender, whether it be male, female, right? So this is our introduction of what that individual should be, and
Mhm.
how that's modeled teaches us how to engage with that person in the real world, right? Once we
Mhm.
grow up, go to school, start dating, things like that. So to have a parent not present, in this case, a father, especially with women, you'll definitely see that manifest in different ways as they age, whether it's interacting with their peers from a school age to, when we start getting into your romantic relationships, not knowing how to communicate properly, not understanding that we are different. Men and women are designed different, and so we behave differently, right? So we have different communication styles and thought processes. And so there's a lot of things that can be impacted by not having a father present.
Mhm. And you said a lot of things, but so affirmation. Even as adults, we like affirmation,
Hmm.
right? We want our atta boys, atta girls. We want our accolades, So the lack of a father's affirmation and support, it can kind of result in feelings of, in the daughter, like I'm inadequate. I could self doubt. Does it also impact a sense of self worth?
Absolutely. Sometimes, we have this thing called adverse childhood experiences, right? And so things like homelessness or death of a parent or divorce, things like that. And so sometimes with multiple things happening, it can start to create messaging in our minds that absolutely not true, but especially
Mhm.
for children because they don't recognize or understand adult things like parent absenteeism. They may begin
Right.
to internalize those things. And so it creates messages like, well, it's my fault, or I wasn't good enough. That's why he left,
Mm.
those things. And then, depending on the circumstances under which the father is not here, if it's like some type of like uh toxicity within the relationship with mom, or whatever the case may be, that messaging that can be, the child can be hearing in the home can also
Mhm.
reinforce those things and reinforce messaging about men, their father, and again, carrying on into relationships as they grow and develop.
Yeah. I think that's powerful that, you say that because if some words you hear things and people say I never argue in front of our kids or we go in a room unless your room is soundproof, your
Right.
kids can still hear things that are happening, right? And like you said, they can develop a sense of like, is it my fault? Right?
Hmm.
And even
Hmm.
sometimes if a divorce happens or a breakup, is it was it my fault or why wasn't I enough?
Correct. Correct. And keep in mind also that 80% of communication is not words, it's body language, right? So you can pick up without anyone even saying anything if there's discord or
Mhm.
some type of issue. So, no, yeah, you may go into a room and have a discussion or an argument, but one, yes, the walls are not as soundproof as you think, but two, how are you engaging with each other outside of that bedroom in front of your
Mhm.
daughter?
Mhm.
We pick up on those nonverbals more so, I would say, than the verbals.
Yes. Yes. I would, you know what? I would agree with you. It's so important that we have to watch our body language cuz our body language would be like just, you know what, just get away from me.
Yeah, yeah.
Just get away from me. So I think that's powerful that you bring that up because so many times we don't look at those nonverbals as communication, but they are. and our children watch, and our children mimic what they see,
Yeah.
right? So if the relationship has chaos and dysfunction, then how are you expecting me to be healthy in society when all I know is chaos? Like you were saying, it messes with the relationships as well.
Right.
So I was thinking about something I was reading. Well, I'm gonna wait on that one. I'm gonna wait on that one. I'm gonna wait on that one. So listen, because that one was good. It was powerful. It blew me away. So daughters growing up without fathers, would you agree that that at times they face specific challenges?
Definitely. I think that it's not by accident that, we are gifted parents, right? Everyone has a specific role. And so, in not having a father in the home, it can definitely create challenges. It can carry on, as we've said repeatedly, into how you engage with men and
Mm-hmm.
authority in the home or in school, in the community, and you know you're basically learning as you go
Yeah.
versus being in the home where you can kind of learn those different things in a safe, controlled environment.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone does not mean well. So, you run across the wrong man, the wrong boy,
Yeah.
and you learn some lessons that you should not have to learn.
That's true. That's true.
So,
And I was reading that it can also affect like our creativity, our a sense of authority, but even our sexuality.
yeah.
It can even impact the sexuality, right? And I was thinking about that, especially with so much happening in the world where, sexual identity is like is so confusing. But
Mhm.
the absence of a father can also impact that.
It can. It can definitely do that, just as the absence of a mother, right? Um,
Mhm.
in anything that um, contributes to our development, right? You have your nature and your nurture. There's certain things that you just may be who you are, but then there's things in the world that impact um, you from the outside in,
Right.
right? So life
Mhm.
experiences. So that could be absenteeism, that can be witnessing domestic violence, that can be abuse,
Right.
experiencing certain types of abuse, sexual trauma, things like that, that can kind of skew and change your perception of what men are supposed to be. So, having a father who is in the home that's able to kind of model that properly, it definitely provides good structure, and
Yeah,
the
better
proper
foundation.
yeah, it helps to properly so you can at least know what you should be looking for in the
Right.
opposite sex in
Right.
men, as you engage with them, whether it's on a platonic or romantic level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Backstage, you and I we were talking about the research that I seen in the book, and it was from Berkeley College, right?
Mhm.
And it said, and I just want to dialogue on this, and I just want to get if any viewers input on this. It says that girls without a biological father in the home are exposed to unrelated male adults, whether that be a boyfriend or friends or whoever that's coming in and out of the home, and
Mhm.
it says the pheromones of these males
Mhm.
lead to early onset of puberty.
Mhm.
I was like, okay. And they said it's unclear why, but it does lead to um the early the early onset of puberty because now the pheromones from someone that's not related to me is foreign, and it's kind of the way I read it. This is my own words now. The way I read it is kind of interfering with my body and different things of how it grows, because if it's my dad, certain things in my body is not getting excited, but if a man comes in is not related, and he's got these pheromones and different things is happening.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, what's your
Yeah.
thoughts? Because I was like, whoa, wait, I had to read that like 5 times.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the study. I haven't read the study, so I haven't heard that before. But what I would gather from that, the messaging that I'm hearing is that, it speaks to the depth of the importance of the presence of the Father, right? That
Mhm.
it impacts us even to the biological level.
Mhm.
So, again, that just speaks to the power and the importance of fathers being present, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, in all those ways, towards their daughters.
Mhm.
It matters.
Yeah, it does matter. And
It
I'm
really,
I'm glad you shed some light on that because that means a lot too because again, a lot of times we don't think or fathers, I feel like fathers may not think that they matter,
yeah,
as much.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but they do,
right.
right? They do and it's really so important. Um there is something else
Okay,
that I have got to discuss
okay,
with you because I have never in my life seen this.
okay,
And I want to ask your opinion.
okay. I'm scared.
Let's think about fairy tales, right? Fairy tales like Cinderella and Rapunzel and all of them.
Uh huh.
If you now that I think about it, they convey like a societal and psychological truth. Let me break it down. When I was doing my research, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's in the fairy tales." So think about Cinderella. The dad was gone all the time. And
Mhm.
all she would get was letters from her dad, right? She would get letters from her dad and mom or stepmom. I don't remember what the evil person was, but she was evil. And all she was getting was these letters. And then dad died and was never in her life.
Mhm.
And I'm going, okay, I can see that in society. Hold
Okay.
on, because we're going to talk about it. Then I was like, okay, let's see what else. What other fairy tale that everybody just had this fairy tale, right? Rapunzel.
Okay.
Her father was a thief and he stole some vegetables from a garden. And for him to be free, he gave the daughter up to the witch and never seen his child again. These are our fairy tales, y'all. Like, these are Snow White. The father spent half the show trying to get her from these seven dwarfs' house. That evil witch, the evil queen, was trying to keep him from his daughter. Like, do you see what's happening here in our fairy tales and society? I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. And then if you think of Hansel and Gretel, and after this, I just stopped because I couldn't no more. So if you
Mhm.
think about Hansel and Gretel, the dad couldn't provide. He was a jellyback and couldn't stand up to his wife. And eventually he gave in to her plan to lead the kids in the woods so him and her can have enough to eat.
Mhm.
So now I'm sitting here going, wait a minute. Cinderella, Rapunzel, Snow White, Hansel and Gretel, all of these fairy tales, they each depict the reality of inadequate, neglectful, and harmful fathers.
Hmm.
Wha- Selah. Like,
Again, just speaking to the chaos that can ensue when fathers are not present the way they need to. There's a scripture that talks about, the enemy, how the enemy can't basically ransack a house unless it binds the strong man, right?
mm-hmm.
And so, if you are the protector of your house and covering your house, then, it's not to say that things can't happen, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
things happen
Of course.
because that's life. But you really give your family, your daughter, the best chance, right, to thrive in
Yeah.
society. And so, what is it that makes it difficult for fathers to be the best father they can be?
Yeah.
And a lot of that stems from, I'm all about going back to the why, where's this
Yeah.
coming from? Right. And a lot of times, if you look at these stories of these fathers, there's things going on,
Yeah.
right, that have created this issue, right? Where the father, he was not prepared. He was not given what he needed, right? Was that model for him? And when we talk
Right.
about in our community, there historically, all the way from back, right? You know, with the enslavement of African Americans and things like
Yeah.
that. There's been a perpetual like separation or breakdown of men, of Black men, right?
Yeah.
And their role has been taken, by force in many ways. So, you have to kind of look at these generational traumas and, just society and culture and all these things that it's not an excuse, but it
Right.
helps get some insight on why things are the way they are,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, anything could happen, unfortunately we don't know. We don't know the drama between, the mother and father. It's a lot that kind of go into it. What did I come from a fatherless home?
Hmm.
What did I see growing up? So yes, a lot has to play in, the now father's role, right? So
Hmm.
now, you come from the child and now you're in fatherhood, but who really taught me how to be that father, right?
Right.
And that's why I found it, and I don't even know how I stumbled upon all of that stuff
Hmm.
with our fairy tales, but these are our fairy tales that are depicting the inadequacy, you know, of a father. And Eric says, "I'm done. What are these fairy tale conspiracies?" Right? He said they're conspiracies. But as I was going through each of them, I was like, there is some truth. And he said, fairy tales illustrate extreme circumstances. What I see is a father who is supposed to be the protector of the family. Once removed, then
Hmm.
trouble befalls the character in these stories.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, and that's what it is, and you're saying the comment was extreme circumstances, but are they really extreme circumstances? Because if I think about it, with Snow White, yeah, that's the father who was trying to get his daughter. How many fathers are fighting for their children now? So
Yeah.
that's not extreme, that's reality. I'm fighting this woman, the queen, the evil queen, could be the mom, could be the grandmother, it could be it
Yeah.
could be anybody. I'm fighting, I'm trying to get my kid, but you're doing everything in your power to stop me from having this relationship. So I didn't, and this is why I brought it up, because I did see the resemblance in society,
Mhm.
right? The other part of it is, you know, Hansel and Gretel. Is that extreme that he succumbed to her, who wanted to leave the kids in the woods to die while they had enough to eat? Yeah, that may be a little extreme, but I just read the story where the boyfriend, unfortunately raped the daughter and the mother set her on fire to hide the evidence. So what's extreme,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of brought out these fairy tales, because it's like at some point too, we even have to watch what our children are watching, because all they see is the fairy tale, the evil woman or the good woman or whatever the case. Where is the man?
Yeah.
Where's the man? Right? By
And
chapter 1, he gone.
yeah. And I mean there are some stories that, have the present father, you have Beauty and the Beast, the Little Mermaid, Mulan,
Yep.
right? So they're there, right?
Mhm.
But I think that, sometimes art does mimic reality. And when you talk about, there not being nothing new under the sun, right? These are all experiences. Like these storytellers are telling things that are based on what happens in life. And
Mhm.
so the other piece is, for mothers who are not present, or mothers who are present, with fathers who may not be there, right? Being able to be there to oversight that and to be able to help the child distinguish the messaging there is also
Mhm.
important, right?
That's good. That's a good
Yeah.
point, because you still have to let that child know you're enough.
Yeah. Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So the ones that that I depict that showed the absence of the father, right? And like I said, they disappear after the first chapter, but in real life, when a father disappears, right, it can leave a haunting presence in the daughter's life, and she can continue to look to fill that void,
Mhm.
right? And what does that look like sometime when we're trying to fill a void? Sometimes I'm not saying every woman and that has daddy issues has go through this, but
Mhm.
sometimes.
It can look like a lot of things. It can look like, maybe having poor boundaries and things, like being more like people pleasing and more accommodating to things that maybe you should not be accommodating, right? To try to
Mhm.
gain the love. And the messaging is, I'm not lovable, so I need to make
Mm.
myself lovable. So we overcompensate for things, and that makes us sometimes overlook flags and things that we should not be dealing with, and
Right.
we intend to internalize a lot of the behaviors that we receive that really is not about us, right? But because we don't have that structure, because we don't have that modeling, right, to be able to identify those things, again, the message is just reinforced that it's us, right? When things don't work out or when things can get abusive or whatever the case may be. And so these are just some of the ways that absenteeism can kind of lead young women to try to fill voids that is really not theirs to fill.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's good. And I'm glad that you had made mention of the fact that it's not theirs to fill, because sometimes we can put the, how can I say it, the father standards on the now relationship. We
Yeah.
put the standards of that, right, which
Yeah.
can cause issues. The other thing is sometimes we conform to what you want me to be, because I don't feel like I would might be enough,
Hmm.
right? So is that definitely a possibility? I'm now conforming to what you want me to be in a relationship because maybe I don't have a sense of who I really am, or well, let me be what you want me to be because maybe you'll stay.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Whatever it takes, I want to do because I don't want to be abandoned, right?
Mm,
It can definitely lead to, abandonment issues. And so, a lot of these women can become very anxious, insecure attachment styles, overly clingy, just things that really aren't good for a relationship, right? Because you should have your autonomy, right? And so this is why it's so important that you do the work, right? You're able to recognize, these patterns and things. And so having a good support system, having people in your life that are you can talk to, that will be honest with you and help you to see, like, okay, this is starting to sound like a pattern. What's
right,
that about? And then,
right.
if you can't resolve it on your own, bringing in professional help to kind of help you make sense of it, because you may not realize that your behaviors are tied back to this because you've gone through the, oh, I don't care, the I don't need him, the I've
Mhm.
made peace with it. But again, have you, right? And sometimes we
Mm,
don't know that things are triggers until they trigger us, right? So you may not realize that you're still battling with some things that happened with your dad,
mhm.
or didn't happen with your dad because he wasn't there, until
Right.
you start interacting with men on a regular basis,
Yeah.
and then you're trying to figure out, okay, why is this not working for me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's good. So I'm glad you brought that up too. So can situations in my life also trigger those behaviors of, because dad wasn't there, like maybe having a child, or a death of a loved one or something like that. Can that also bring up all these emotions that possibly is like, wow, where all of a sudden did this come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, things like you don't know it's a trigger until it's a trigger. A lot of times for women, it pops up when you're in relationships, right? But it could probably show up in your friendships, right? I know that, there's some people, maybe their parents, they have great relationship with their dads. They are daddy's girls, right? And so, you start to feel that longing because you're seeing what a healthy relationship is supposed to look like and you don't have that. So,
Mm,
I think sometimes, in the people we engage with, sometimes it can be a blessing to have friends from different groups so you can kind of get an idea of, maybe this is what it's supposed to look like, or maybe give you the idea of, okay, maybe I am missing something.
right.
Maybe this did impact me more than I thought it did.
Yeah. I know by my father not, that's a weird situation. So he was there, but then he really wasn't there. And then when he was there, he was abusive. So, and that's my situation. So it left me angry, it left me bitter towards men. It left me feeling like I wasn't enough.
Mhm.
Self-esteem was low. So that's the impact it had on me.
Mhm.
So, what are your thoughts about the psychological distress on a daughter when the father is there, right? But emotionally distant,
Mhm.
maybe manipulative, abusive, or even if the father's depressed, because fathers have issues too.
Absolutely. We're human. We're all human, right?
Exactly.
So we're
Right?
definitely not exempt. Yeah.
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 So I don't know if one is better than the other because I did experience him there and he was all of those except for the depressed part, at least I think. And then, I experienced him not being there. But what do you think about the psychological distress that it has on a daughter when you're right there and where are you?
I think it's the prime recipe for an insecure attachment style, is what it is,
You
right?
said that twice. I'm gonna need you to
Yeah,
elaborate on that.
right. So, you have your secure attachments. That's where the parent is present but not overly involved. You have your autonomy as a child to grow and explore the world, but you know that your parent's going to be supportive, they're going to be present. If you mess up, they're there to pick you up, dust you off, coach you, and put you back in the world. Versus these insecure attachments. And there's really two. There's the kind of anxious attachment that you can
Mhm.
develop, and that develops because you're not sure when mom or dad's gonna show up.
Right.
Sometimes they show up and they've got your back, other times they're yelling at you and telling you not good enough. Sometimes they're emotionally unavailable, so you just don't know what you're gonna get. And so as a child, you become anxious because it's like, okay, I need dad, right? But I don't know which dad I'm gonna get, right?
Ooh.
And so that's
Yeah.
the one that I hear the most when you have parents or dads that are there but not there. Yeah, dad
Yeah,
was
which
in the
man,
house.
that was powerful. Which which
Yeah,
which dad am I gonna get?
yeah,
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 so that brings on a whole other form of
yeah,
anxiousness and stuff like
yeah,
that. Like,
yeah, yeah. And then you throw in, those things like, abuse, domestic violence, sometimes like there's substance use, things like that, or mental health issues. And we know like things like depression and anxiety, there's a genetic component with that, right? Where you can actually pass that down. The throw in the environment, remember nature and nurture, it
nurture.
becomes a perfect storm, right? To for a person to develop mental health issues, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Just because. And so it's super important to, you made a comment earlier, is it better to have dad there and not there, or just not there at all?
Mhm.
And honestly, I would say not. That's a hard one, Ellison. Because
It
I would
it
say I
it
would say
is
not there if there's like the abuse and things going on, but that abandonment piece, I mean, you don't
it's
really have to
difficult.
change anyway.
Let's dialogue about that. I really feel
Yeah,
like it's difficult, right? Because on one hand, it's like you can't miss what you never really had. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So if
right,
he's not there, but you know, I just know he's not there. Yeah, the abandonment and that I deal with. But then if he is there, and I had said this on a previous show too, but if he is there and I'm yearning for a love, I'm yearning for a relationship, I'm yearning for a conversation,
Mhm.
but he can't because maybe he is depressed, maybe he's tired from a long day, whatever may be happening, maybe him and mom are not getting along. I don't know, but whatever I know is he's not there for me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
So then you
know?
have to deal with the abandonment issues, right? And then also, you had mentioned like abuse, right? And so we're risking the coupling of abandonment with now trauma.
Mhm.
You have adverse childhood experiences like, homelessness and divorce and deportations and different things, right?
Yeah.
Substance use, incarceration. But then you have trauma, which is like next level, like changing the brain structure
Yeah.
stuff, right? And so, I mean, there's already links to like adverse childhood experiences and how it impacts one's mental health and their physical health as well,
Yes.
by itself. So I don't know. I think that coupling that with potential trauma, I think that I don't want to see any child without a father. But if you're going to do more harm than good while you're there, don't be there.
Yeah. So I mean, again, that question is just, I feel like it's a loaded question,
It is. It is.
and
It is.
the effects of it either way can be detrimental. I, like, for instance, I remember one Christmas we were so excited. I had the wonderful house. My house was decorated beautiful, fireplace beautiful, tree beautiful, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful Christmas. I mean, just lovely. And my
Mm-hmm.
father chopped the door down.
How old
So
were you?
what do you do with all of this? It's like, oh my God, this dude, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
why are you here? Like, what is it? And sometimes I feel like that can be, some people stay in a relationship because it's like, I'm staying in it for the kids, but look what you're putting the kids through,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
I
it's loaded.
don't, yeah, I don't encourage staying in it for the kids,
Yeah,
because the kids are only as healthy as
the
the parent,
environment.
right? And so if it's a situation where it's unhealthy, you're not doing a service, because
Right.
again, kids are like sponges. They absorb everything, right? They see everything. You'd be surprised what kids pick up on, right? They
Yeah.
love to show you what they picked up on in the most inopportune, embarrassing situations. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah. How
Yeah.
old were
Just
you, Ellison, when that happened? The door situation happened.
went 9. I
You
was
are not nine
9.
anymore, and that story, when you told it, like I could picture it, like
Yeah.
clear as
Hmm.
day,
Yeah.
right?
I was 9. And the sad thing about it is, what people don't understand, um you when a father leaves, right? When he walks away, and again, it could be the mother too, but we're talking about fathers this time. But when a father leaves, or when a father says, I'm coming, you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that. I can remember I had this electric blue robe. It was electric blue robe. It zipped up in the front. It had a hood, and it had bright yellow, all the primary colors, bright yellow, bright, red going down. And it was my favorite,
Yeah,
right? Unfortunately, I also remember the negative memory that's attached to that.
yeah, yeah.
So, I can't remember my favorite robe
Without
without
buying
the
it.
adverse event that happened around it. You know what I'm saying? And just talking about me, those situations had me setting myself up and my family up for failure around holidays because I was almost waiting for
Right,
drama to happen.
right, right, right. It created like it was a trigger for you,
Yes.
right?
It was
Holidays
definitely a
become
trigger.
a trigger, right? Something that, and that's what triggers are. Triggers are not good or bad things. They're just events. They're just
Yeah.
minding their business, right? But when we have negative things tied to those events, then it becomes a trigger, right? So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with Christmas and Christmas trees and gifts and holidays and spending time with family. But when on Christmas morning at 9 years old, there's someone chopping down the door,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes associated forever with Christmas until
Yeah.
you work through that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like I said, it's really important, and it's a. I think that's a per person question to
Hmm.
answer,
Hmm.
right? It's a per person because what would you rather? What would you rather really deal with? I would love for the father to be in a home, but not with those
Not
circumstances.
like that, right?
Not at
And it was
all.
a lesser of two evils type situation. It's
Mhm.
still evil. It's still
Right.
terrible,
Yeah.
right?
And the impact, like I said, was real. And again, I often talk about silent vows, like the vow that we make.
Hmm.
And mine was no man is going to treat me like that.
And so, what did that do for you? How
I
did
was
that
a
build?
hell on wheels.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was a hell on wheel. I didn't need a gun. I didn't need a razor blade. I just cut you up, chew you up, spit you out, and keep it moving.
yeah,
Hell on wheels, because
yeah,
what you're not going to do is talk to me like that. And if you
yeah,
move too quick, we fighting because
yeah,
I think
yeah,
you're gonna hit me.
yeah,
It's not by no means am I bragging. That's just my unfortunate reaction.
yeah.
And it took 3 counselors to tell me I had PTSD because I didn't even want to believe them. But at
Right,
some point, I finally believed them because if you jump in, I'm fighting.
right. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not going to allow people to mistreat me. But what traumatic events do is it makes you hyper
Yep.
vigilant. So you take it, you don't take it here, you take it here, right? And here, when there's no danger, is not appropriate, right?
Right.
And that can impact your relationships, how
Yep.
you operate in the world, workplace. Somebody say something wrong to you, a man say something wrong to you, you know.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, I
so
know.
so like this is like prime examples of how you know father's not being present or doing more harm than good. It
If they
really
are
does
present.
change the world, and so it just goes back to the importance of fathers, because I think there's messaging out here that fathers are not important, you don't matter, we don't need you,
Yes,
we
y'all
can do it
are.
all by ourselves. That is not true.
Mm-mm.
That is not how things were designed.
That's right.
And so, the call is to, if you didn't do it right, get it right. Because I
That's
think last
right. It's
month,
never too late.
right? I told you last month, kids want their moms.
Yes.
Kids want their dads.
Yes.
They do. Get it right. If you have
Mhm.
breath in your body, there's time. It might take time, but there's time.
At least make the effort.
Make the effort. Put it out there.
Yeah.
You know,
And be
ask for the
consistent at it.
forgiveness, do the work, and just put that time in, because Rome wasn't built in a day. So you didn't tear this thing down in a day. So um, it's not going to be rebuilt in a day, right?
Mhm.
But it can be done. It can be done with time and grace and the Lord and all kinds of things, therapy.
Right.
It can be done if
Yeah.
you wanted to, but you have to take action. It's not going to happen just doing nothing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Eric has said, I believe there's an intentional attack on what a family unit should be. And I would have to agree. Because if
absolutely.
I can get to the family, right? So just think about, we say fathers don't matter,
Mhm.
but we've been depicting different behaviors that stem from the absence of a father. So now those behaviors go out to society.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
go to relationships. They go to generations and generations. So of course fathers are important.
In the beginning, family is the basic building structure of society.
Mhm.
You have
That's
mom and
right.
dad, and then the children who model mom and dad.
That's
So
right.
what you teach your kids is what they take out into the world. And the world is where we are, right?
That's right.
So if at home you guys are cussing each other out, beating each other up, not just complete toxicity, when this child comes out into school, comes out to do interpersonal relationships, comes out to date, to work, there's not going to be any structure there because everything, like any type of stressor, is going to create poor communication and violence. That's what you're bringing into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So dads absolutely have a role. Absolutely have a role.
And,
100%.
and look at our world. Yes, it
Hey,
impacts, right? We
absolutely
don't.
have a role. Yeah. 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 You can
And
see it.
I thank God for saving me because I probably wouldn't make it to I'm 53. I probably wouldn't make it to 53 the way
Mm-hmm.
I was going because I got my mentality was I got to get you before you get me. And
Yeah.
again, sometimes that wasn't even the case, but because I was so used to having to defend myself, I
Mm-hmm.
was on guard 24 hours a day
Yeah.
growing up because you never knew when stuff was going to pop off. You never
Right.
knew when you was in the middle of your sleeping.
Right.
I thought about it not too long ago. I
Mm-hmm.
never really watched that much TV, not to mention that it went off at a certain time anyway, but I never watched that much TV and I never gave it much thought. But I didn't put the TV on that much because I wanted to listen to make sure my mom was safe.
Yeah.
I wanted to listen just in case my dad was doing something, just in case he would come in my room. Like I was always listening. So the TV wasn't on because I always listen. And I really feel like I don't get much sleep because I'm still always listening.
And what a fearful thing and responsibility that was on you as a child. That
Yep.
you can't rest, you can't have peace because you're worried about adults,
Yep.
right? You
Yeah.
know, um, yeah. And so that kind of stress and being hyper alert, it also releases like chemicals like cortisol and stress hormones into your body. And so it dysregulates us, right? That
Yes.
that constant stress, it dysregulates us. It keeps us in a heightened state, even when nothing's
Yeah.
going on. There's just a
Yeah.
heightened anxiety that's happening, even when you're not up listening for mom or listening for dad.
Right.
So the
Your
impact,
body feels like it's on, like it's a engine running constantly, just running,
yeah,
running, 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 running.
constantly, constantly,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, the impact is real, but again, I thank God for God because it was for Him. I thank God for my therapist Faye. She was amazing. The only one I would listen to. She was amazing, and I thank God for my husband because he went through that, and I think it was like shortly maybe after my daughter was born,
Mhm.
more and more vivid dreams started coming back of like visuals, and they wasn't even dreams. Sometimes I'd be up and I can just see the incident,
Yeah.
so the impact, and like I said, in the relationship was real as well.
Hmm.
If I was him, I probably would have left me, but thank God he didn't. We here
Yeah.
now. But
Yeah.
I was a force to be reckoned with. Yeah.
And I just heard another trigger, right? So, that we don't talk about with women who have traumatic or absentee fathers, things like that, is it can carry over into your children,
Hmm.
right? So now you are hyper vigilant, it starts triggering like flashbacks and things like
Hmm.
that for you, right? So all of these things can be signs, and in some way gifts to let you know that everything's not quite okay yet, right? And so there's still work to be
Yeah.
done, so that you can be your best and
Yeah.
be a whole individual despite what has happened, you know.
Yeah.
And so faith and making sure your mental health is intact, those are
Faith
big.
told me, she said she was listening to some of my stories and she put her feet up in the couch and she was like, "How are you not in a mental institution?"
Yeah,
I said God was keeping me and I didn't even know it at the time.
that's it. That's it, right? And I think it's interesting that you said that it took 2 or 3 counselors to like kind of help you realize it was PTSD because you weren't trying to hear it. Sometimes, that's a message also is, sometimes you have to keep trying, you have to keep going, you have to keep taking action to get that healing because that's always where we go, feel, deal, heal, right? To get that healing that you need is not an easy thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, dads, you have to keep trying different approaches, right, to get
Don't give
things
up.
back for you and your children and for you, right? And then daughters, who have been hurt, impacted, you know, keep working, keep putting the effort in. Is it fair that you have to do all this work because of someone else's actions? No, but life is
No, but
fair. And you have two options: stay where you are or get better. And so who doesn't want to
no.
get better, right? And
Right.
so that's this is the life we have, and this is what we do to get better.
So Eric said, what would you say a daughter needs most from her father that as a man we may not realize?
Security,
Mm,
emotional, mental, physical security,
security. Good.
security, spiritual security, security. You again, a house can't be destroyed unless you first bind the strong man,
Right.
right? The strong man keeps us safe,
Yeah.
right? And so when dad is not there, whether like physically not there or just checked out,
Yeah.
it allows so many things that should not be permitted, right? And so it really does put daughters at a disadvantage. So again, when you go out into the world, you don't know what security looks like. You don't know what's safe, what's not, right? So you're learning as you go. And it's a dangerous place to learn those things with people who don't care about you.
That's
At
right.
home with your
Good.
with your mom or your dad in a healthy environment, this is a safe space to learn, to make mistakes, to figure things out. The world does not care about us
That's
in
right.
many situations.
That's right.
And there's some people who do, but you got to go through a lot of people who don't
You got to get through a lot of hurt
before
to
you
find out
find
who
them.
cares.
And a lot of damage can be done between now and then,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
security,
Security. Security. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physical
physically, security.
security.
Yes,
That's good. That's good. That's good.
absolutely.
So, despite an absent father, how important is it for a daughter to or a woman to um discover her, like, maybe her moral and emotional strength, um a sense of just who you are, right? How important is it for her to identify who I am and
Yeah.
really work on that, like to heal that inner child?
So, your molding is going to come from home, right? So for a lot of girls, you have mom who's that strong support for you, right? Um, and then maybe there's a stepdad or something that can kind of provide that. You can also look into the community, like if you're um, involved in activities and faith, like worship and things like that, where you can meet people in your life that care and supports that can help pour into you, right? Um, and then of course, like from a faith perspective, hopefully you find your faith in Christ,
Right.
right? And then
Right.
that
Right.
is going to be the ultimate
That's right.
testament of who you
That's
are,
right. That's right.
right? And tell you who you are, because who better to tell you who you are than the one who created you,
That's right. That's right.
right? And so a lot of times, you know, girls get their identity from their friends and from social media and all these things, right?
Lord have
And
mercy.
there's so much
Yes.
messaging out there, so much confusion. But who does God say you are?
That's right.
And that is the biggest. That's the biggest. That is the definer of who we are, right? Image bearers,
Yes.
love, beautifully and wondrously made, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so the challenge, though, Ellison, is that a lot of people don't, um, they're not connected.
They're
They
not
don't
connected to
know.
Christ.
They don't know what God says about them. They
That's
don't know.
right.
They don't care. And I think that we're in kind of a culture or a society where, you know, I'm coming across more and more clients where I ask, do you have any type of religious affiliation? And it's like, no, like just
Right. No.
no, no.
Or they believe in a universe, but not the one who created the universe.
Correct. Right. Very, very like general, like non-specific stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to know who you are when you don't know whose you are.
That's right. That's good.
So, so yeah.
Yeah. That's impactful. So, you have to, in order to heal, I had to learn and understand that regardless of my father, God still loved me anyhow.
Mm,
Right? I had to learn that. But I had to unpack that. It affected me
yeah.
because I was like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
who cares about that dude? Like, I don't
Yeah.
care. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't care at all. But I did care enough about me and what the behaviors I was displaying because
Mm-hmm.
of the impact of him. So
Right.
no, I didn't care too much anymore about him, but I cared about what was happening to me because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that's what drives us. It's not the other person, right? The
That's
healing
right.
has to be for yourself because, you know, like dad is off living his life, miserable, happy, whatever, right?
Whatever.
And you're sitting here carrying this thing miserable, right? And so you have to make a decision of, okay, this person is probably not even thinking about the effect they had on me, or maybe they are. I don't know, probably won't know. But what can I control? Myself and how I'm handling this thing. And it's
That's
creating
good.
chaos and mess all around me. And I don't like that, nor do I have to stay in that, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you do have to, decide for yourself that this is not what I want for me.
That's right.
I'm not going to allow this person to have that control over
That's
my life.
right.
I'm an adult now. I don't have to give that person control over me anymore.
That's right. That's right. Get your inner authority back.
Yes. You're a grown up
And
now.
that is the best thing that, I feel. And I think in an earlier show, like I was crying because it was a lot happening and I was really emotional and I was crying, and I wasn't crying because it was still impacting me or because I remember it or anything else
Mhm.
like that. I was crying because it was sad.
It
It was
is.
sad,
Yeah.
right? And um if I sat here and told everything that happened in my life, I don't think anybody would believe me because it's like it's no way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just it's just no
Yeah.
way. But it is, and I don't care about that because this is my story. But what I did care about is how is it going to impact me? What am I doing different so that my children don't have to suffer those consequences
Yeah.
anymore because of me, right? And that's
Yeah.
the other thing. If we don't heal, then we are not allowing the best children, the best society to go forth because now we are creating more broken people
Correct. And the cycle continues.
and the cycle continues.
The cycle.
Right? So, yeah, so it's basically, we got to have God. We got to have God. And I'm saying if you don't want to have him, that's on you. But I'm saying you got to have God because again, it's hard to understand that I am worth loving if I don't know my worth.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I can't find my worth in this society. What
Right.
Instagram gonna tell me that I gotta have a Coke bottle shape? Like, what are they telling me? I gotta do
Yeah.
this and I gotta do that. What is
Yeah.
really like? What is TikTok telling me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? What is it really telling me that I gotta dress a certain way? I gotta wear all these clothes that just reveal all of me?
Mm-hmm.
No, fine. We gotta go back to our morals and just respecting ourselves. But sometimes because of the absent or inconsistent father, you know, we never really developed that. Because I don't think a father gonna be like, "What you do? I know you ain't walking up out of the house with that on." You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Some of us never had that conversation.
Never had that conversation.
Some of us have never had that conversation.
Right. So, so again, we
Yeah.
can't go to TikTok and Instagram and all the social media, at the one true place to find it is actually in God, right?
Right.
And then we as women, we have to do a thing with the daughters as well. Yeah, we're saying an impact as a father, but are we displaying what it really looks like to be a healthy, educated, and listen to what I'm saying when I say strong woman, because my definition of strong woman was warped. My definition of a strong woman was you hold on to every secret, you have the world on your shoulders, and
Mm.
you keep it moving anyway. A
Yeah.
strong woman is the woman that can ask for help. That strength right
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Asking for help, right? But sometimes I feel like now society, moms and grandmas are out in the club with the kids. So who's teaching the daughter? The dad is not here. The mom and we getting our bodies done together. Like, what are we teaching our children, right? So that's a whole nother story. I don't know how I got on that tangent. But
Yeah.
dads, y'all are important.
Man, we need you. We need you so
We
much.
need you, fathers. We need you. And we need you to be more than just a provider.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We need you. What was you saying? Emotionally, spiritually,
Mentally,
physically, mentally,
all of it.
right? We
All
need
of it.
you. That's security, fathers. We need you. So step up. It's never too late. Even if they push back, you've been gone a minute. So give it some time. Don't give
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
What would you say? What's your last words? I want you to tell us more about your organization again, and then give us some last nuggets about overcoming the father wound, so to speak.
Yeah. So again, I'm the founder and executive director of the Leesboro Haven Incorporated. And again, our goal is to provide treatment for kids impacted by child sexual abuse. A lot of what we talked about today was, just the impact of parents on children, and child sexual abuse is something that happens to 1 in every 5 girls, 1 in every 6 boys, or 8 boys. And it's probably more than that because
Yeah.
a lot of it doesn't get reported, right? And so the whole goal is to help impact society by helping the family. And how do we help the family? By providing this treatment to kids at no cost or as little cost to them, right? So that they can get the healing that they need, right? Because they didn't ask for this. And
That's
so they
right.
shouldn't have to pay for this, right? And then also providing the support for the family. So family therapy, supports and resources in the community to help the family to thrive so that they can go out and create a thriving
Yeah.
society for us to
Yeah.
live in.
I think
Um,
that's important too, because you're working on a child, but nobody's working with the family. So
Yeah, you got to do both because it impacts, trauma, it impacts not just the person that's traumatized.
that's right.
Everybody's affected, especially
Yeah.
with sexual trauma. The whole family has to deal with that thing. And so that's what we're here to do, to help the whole family process and work through that thing and heal so they can move forward as a unit. Yep.
Amen. Thank you for
Mhm.
all you do.
Yeah.
You got a nugget?
Fathers matter. You
Yeah.
matter. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what society says. You matter. Um, and so kids want their dads. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what they say to you. Everybody wants their dad. And so my challenge to you is if you haven't been the perfect dad, take those steps to fix it, right? And sometimes fixing being a father starts with fixing yourself as an individual. So seek
Mm.
God, seek therapy. There's nothing weak about that. And there's nothing
Amen.
weak about wanting to be a father to your children.
Amen. Ooh, mic drop on that one. Let me drop the mic. So, well, Adrian, of course, I thank you so much for being here, right? Even with your little fur
Yeah.
baby.
I heard him barking in the background.
So, look, that's a sign he's doing better.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. So, hold on, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Thanks. Listen, guys, y'all have been watching Real Talk with Ellison, and we had Adrienne Smith on, and she has been talking to us about the blueprint of a father, the effects of a father daughter relationship. And all month long, we've been talking about the impact fathers have. Fathers, like she said, you guys matter. Your voice matters, right? We want you in our lives. The kids want you in our lives in a healthy way. Get that? That's it, in a healthy way. So, thank you all for tuning in to Real Talk with Ellison. Have a wonderful night. God bless. Mwah.